Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 151 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we preview the final League One event of the season, set to take place this weekend in New Hampshire. Starting things off in the weekly rundown, we set the table for this weekend's showcase by going division by division across the EHL and the EHLP. Moving along to the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge, Team HNIB is starting to feel confident after gaining nearly 40 points on Team OG this past week. Finally, to wrap things up in our What to Watch For segment, we circle some matchups to keep an eye on this upcoming weekend. This week's episode is brought to you by Hockey Tech, the developers for the new EHL app, available now in both Apple and Google stores. And with that, let's bring in this week's E-Crew. It's just three of us this week, guys. Jeff and Anthony.
Just the three of us.
I think the rest of the crew needs as much sleep as they can. Just said that off air, right? Just said that off air. To prepare themselves for this weekend. Are you guys ready at least then for the final showcase of the year?
Hey, no excuses for me and Anthony. Every day,
oh yeah,
we play like it's our last day, commission. I got 14 games on the slate this weekend. Anthony's got like 5 or 7 games. We're ready to go. 5. There we go.
We're gonna count the EHLP All-Star game as like 3 though, Anthony. So you have
okay,
like 8 or 7 or 8 then. Yeah.
Well, hey, the most important thing is, can you count as 3 games on my contract?
Oh,
we'll bring that up with
to...
Dave Theralt and Jeremy Cook.
I might. Student loans to pay.
Oh, we lost you there for a second, Anthony. Student loans, is that what you said?
Yeah, he's got his student loans.
Yeah, I said I still might have to pay them so I can use all the help I can get.
I hear you. I'm still paying them too, bud.
And with student loans covered, we can now jump into the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Crew's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
We can safely say that we've now gone through 150-something episodes. We have officially covered student loans. So
hey, there we go.
It's been
we hit the 150 plateau last week, right?
Yes, but this is episode 151, and it just took us 150 episodes previous to not talking about student loans, but now we have. So a busy week though. So let's start by announcing or talking about what we put on the website this past week. The first announcement I want to cover, obviously the ProTech Junior Ducks have sold. I kind of teased this with you guys last week on the podcast when I showed you the jerseys ahead of time. So they're going to be the New Jersey Bears next season. I think what's exciting for me with that sale, he's going to love that I'm saying this too, is that Terry Watt is staying on as the head coach and GM of the program. But I think we do have to give him some credit because I made the mistake when I was reading his, some of the bullet points he sent me for the draft story. He said, we're in our 3rd year, 2.5 years in, basically. And I said, no, it's year 4. And he's like, no, think about it. We came in the 2020-21 season. And I was like, I for some reason thought they were a 1920 team, right?
No,
and
they were a COVID baby.
So you think that, but that's it. That's what I'm saying, Jeff, is they came in the COVID season. So their first season, they didn't have any showcases. This is literally just the second year for them with showcases. So I know they haven't won a championship like one of their in-state rivals, right? But like they've done a pretty damn good job in a very short amount of time. And to see the sale go through, because sales are always tough because it's just part of the business, right? But the fact that he can stay on and I'm imagining a number of those players go with him I think that's awesome. So, and Anthony, you've seen them a lot in the South. Like this year, they're a legit contender.
Yeah, and that's what I said as they beat the 87s by a score of 4-1. As as the EHL beat writer, it was an impressive game for them. As the 87s broadcaster, it was one of the most frustrating games I've seen all season.
Let it out, Ian. Let it out.
But Neil, you hit the nail on the head. They really do deserve a lot of credit for how competitive they've been right off the bat. And we've seen in a whole bunch of different leagues, including the EHL, that it's not always the easiest thing to do to have an expansion team and be competitive right off the bat. They had a great season last season, and right now they're following up on that. They're right with the 87s for that top spot in the South Division. I think this year they're going to try to have some more gas in the tank for the postseason. I know they fell a little short last season, but right now they're just so evenly spread out. They've got goal scorers, they've got good defensemen, they've got good goaltending. I mean, Nate Kirschenbaum is 3-0 since joining the Ducks.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, revitalized since joining them. Nice addition. And it wasn't really like that was an interesting move by one Terry Watt, our favorite pal, because I thought Giroux, Casper, look at their numbers, they weren't they weren't doing bad per se. If you look at their numbers in totality this year, I mean, Casper, just look at his record, 7-2, and he's played 12 games. Save percentage, we always say you want to be in the 900s, right? He's at 918. Giroux's at 912. Giroux's record a little tougher at 5-6-2. Goals against also a little higher at 293, but as we always say too, it's not always the goaltender. It can sometimes be the defense in front of you that can inflate and kind of bloat your numbers as a goaltender. But credit to Terry. Terry is one of those coaches that stays up late at night like the rest of them, and he worries about things. He's very meticulous. He's very type A, and he just looks at all these different areas. And I guess he saw and was like, you know what? Like Anthony said, they kind of ran out of gas at the end of last year. So what do? Get a third goalie in town, and now you can kind of rotate the three. And like we always say, competition breeds excellence, right? So Kirschenbaum kind of taking that net over from Giroux and Casper for the at least immediate future, and we'll see if that holds down the stretch. But yeah, I agree, Anthony. That should be a team that I picked them to win the South, and may have gotten a text from one Terry Watt this week as their only fan. Thank you, Terry. I hope you guys can make me look smarter than I really am and finish that off. But also do love Adam Hooley in the 87s. That's going to be a dogfight till the very end. But like you said too, Neil, as far as just wrapping up the Ducks stuff, congrats to Terry for being able to stay around. Smart move by the New Jersey Bears to keep him around. And just looking at the roster, a lot of O2s that are their impact players, like Broadfoot, Gates, Aver, so they'll be gone. But someone like Tanner Contier, he's a really good player, really good goal scorer for them. I know Murr from Neutral Zone talked a lot about him at Newington on their site. So that's someone. John Manzi's another guy that's been really good for them.
Mm-hmm.
JC Garbisic. Those are all guys that can return for Terry for next year and become the New Jersey Bear Protect Duck Hunterton Bears.
one thing I actually wanted to talk about last week, but I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe it would give it away. I do like how similar to the 87s, you have a bit of New Jersey with that team because New Jersey is known for having a lot of bears in the state. I always like telling people with the 87s, it's a reference to the state ratifying the Constitution in 1787. So it's like a lot of these professional sports teams where you have a lot of history in the name from where they came from. So
yeah,
I like that connection with the Bears.
So Anthony, I will say this too. I mean, yeah, we always create bulletin board material, so this is going on 3 of them right now. It almost feels like we have a 2-horse race and a 3-horse race in that division, right? When you look at the standings, it's shaping up like the 2 teams that have 18 wins are making a run for 1 versus 2. And then, I mean, these teams have the same records, basically. It's 13, 12, and 5, 13, 13, and 4, 11, 13, and 4. Those are Team Maryland, Philly Hockey Club, and Philly Little Flyers. It almost feels like they're battling for who can be 3 and then avoid that play-in game. Do you get that same sense? It's almost a 2-horse and a 3-horse race?
Yeah, I think when you look at the standings, you can certainly get that idea. But I feel like with these three teams, with Maryland, Philly Hockey Club, and the Little Flyers, all three of them are just one winning streak away from rocketing right back up
True.
to the top, where they can
True.
easily compete for
Good
that
point.
number 2 or maybe number 1 spot.
Mhm.
So I yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the standings, it could certainly seem like a two-tiered race where it's Ducks 87s for the top spot, then Little Flyers, Philly, and Maryland for those bottom 3. But
Yeah.
again, I still think it's anybody's division. It could be a real dogfight, and maybe we could see a team make a bid up for that number 2 or number 1 seed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna start working our way
Back up.
Well,
We start south, so we're kind of get your compass out.
well, I was gonna say let's start working our way back up the way that it's listed in the standings page.
Oh, okay. All right.
Alphabetically,
Okay.
right? So we're gonna go south north, right?
Got
it.
To the north.
That
was a quick bus ride.
Well, that's what they're doing this weekend, right?
That's right. We're all going to the north, baby.
From the south to Exeter. So, at what point with the Avalanche, as Chris turns up the volume right now, do we just like they just keep humming along? You know what I mean?
They sure do.
And they come out of the break and they beat Seacoast 8-2. They beat the Express 4-1, and I'll check the shots, but it looks like they got heavily outshot in that game. I mean, I confirmed it with some college coaches that were there that said that the Express had some pretty good control in that game yesterday, but they just keep winning, right?
Yeah.
And all year long, we've kind of just said, like, the North is the North. It's up for grabs. It's up for grabs. But, like, the more this continues, is it really, like, Spartans, Lumberjacks, Wolves, whoever can give the Avalanche the best shot, that's what's going to happen? Do you get that same sense?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's. I mean, we talked to Chris Sorella, me and you, Neil, a lot, and we joke with him that that he has been too good for too long, and they're just too consistent. So it's almost like a boring pick to pick them in the North. Well, you picked him in the North, and he's still giving you flack. He's still sending you emojis that it's a family show we cannot talk about on the air. But we were all busy and had the holidays, so we were all out of the loop a little bit with our group text for a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and it was Robideau, not Parema, that gets the start yesterday. So he makes 44 saves on 45 shots. Again, Commissioner Raman will check to make sure that those shots are correct. But yeah, and then the Spartans have now hit a little bit of a snag, and I can't really say what some coaches are saying with them, that maybe they're a little top heavy.
Great time for a home showcase.
Yeah,
we'll say too.
3 games in 3 days. That's a way to fix it. I think they are a little top heavy. I mean, that was why I went back and forth. I had the Spartans win in the North originally, and then I went against that because of, I think they're a little top heavy. But yeah, to answer your question, Neil, about the Avs, yeah, they're Avs rolling yet again. 2023, they're still rolling, and they just make it look easy. They really do.
There's always coaches that reach out while we're recording the podcast. So
yeah, Chris already did. When's my guest appearance? I said, when we say so. And he goes, easy does it.
well, it was funny. Jack Lowry was calling me last night about something. And as I answer the phone, I go, he's like, hey, Jack, what's up, man? I hear Seth in the background. Hey, Neil. I'm like, it's like really distant in the background. And I'm like, what's up, Seth? And he's texting me right now. And he's like, make sure to give a shout out to the fellas. So shout out to the fellas right now, Seth. Like,
to the fellas.
We're in the North, so we'll give you a shout out. I'm hoping.
So many bromances in our league.
I'm hoping we get to see the gray suit this weekend. That's all I can say, guys.
Ooh.
I hope we get to see the gray suit this weekend. So
and keep the pucks away from that handsome man, Seth Gustin. All right, we don't need any blood on that good looking suit. Maybe that thing stays fresh.
He's been hit with what, 2 pucks now?
Yeah.
Once in the Frozen Finals and once earlier this season.
Yeah, once in the showcase at Haverhill, I think it was. That puck loves him.
One thing I've also noticed in the North so far, and like I want to say in 2023, but we're only like 12 days in. It's like we
Right.
literally just started the year. The Wolves haven't played a game yet in 2023, and they were a team that
Showcase.
I think needed the break, right?
Yeah.
So, do you guys feel like, obviously they didn't go into 2023 riding a hot streak per se, but do you think this extra time off will be beneficial for them? Or Jeff, you love it, rest
Rest
versus
versus
rust.
Rust. You took the
Like,
words out of my mouth.
will they be too rusty here because they're jumping right back in with a showcase right off the bat? You get Team Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the rest was good for them because talking to Tim Kuhns and Lou Luttrell and Connor Bates, the coaching staff for the Wolves, like we said on the podcast, we were doing picks that they were banged up, man. They were Budino was sick. I told you he was eating saltines and did a horrible job of trying to impersonate his accent. Sorry, Matthias. And Trevor Jewell told you he gave up 5 goals in 3 straight games after having a stellar beginning of the season. Committed to SUNY Brockport for a reason. Very good goaltender, but I think a little overworked. Charles Antoine Julien left the team. They were looking for a backup. They found one with Cam Reardon, saw him in the Newington Showcase. He was good. But yeah, I think a month off can be good because now it's the stretch run. And with the veteran coaching staff, with Tim Kuhns and Connor Bates, Lou Luttrell, and Adrian Trimble as their owner, I mean, that was a team that got real hot last year in the second half and made it all the way to the Frozen Finals. So I think that they're just going to go into the old well per se and look and find what they found last year and try to make another big stretch run. I think the rest will do them good. No rust, sure. All rest.
All rest. Continuing up alphabetically, that takes us to the East next.
All right.
Where with Chris turning up the volume, so is Rich, and Rich is like, look at us since our 0-4 start, right? 18-6 since then. I do find it fascinating. The Rangers don't have an overtime loss, a shootout loss. They have played some games in overtime, right? But they are the opposite of the Adirondack Junior Thunder, which we'll get to when we get to the EHLP, right?
Oh, we predicted some OT. We got it there.
All or nothing.
But this division is crazy. Like it's I think it was Jake who said it best over the holiday break that I think he spent half his day one day working on the East because he just didn't know who to predict. I feel like with this division, yes, I know the Rangers are out in front in terms of points. Yes, I know the Seahawks are out in front in terms of games played, right? We covered that as well. But I think, as cliche as it is with hockey, whichever one of these teams is the hottest, including, you could even say Wizards or Valley, is the team that's going to go on a run in March.
I'm going to say Matt Gover's, a fan favorite of everybody here. Jake Basile the most. Jake Basile wants to adopt Matt Gover if he could. Don't think the Gover family is going to allow that. I think they love Matt too much. But you took the words out of my mouth. That's another team that loves to make late season runs, right, Neil and Anthony? I mean, we've seen them do it plenty of times in years past. So you really can't count out the Wizards. Not sure if the Warriors have enough gas. I'm like, we're at this point in the season. If we're being honest with each other, they're at 28 games. They're stuck at 20 points. So I would say it's more of a 4-team race there in the East. They'd really have, because at this point in time, you'd have to really go on a run, and then everyone in front of you has to basically just fall apart when you're that far behind at this point in the year. So Rangers Seahawks Express seems like what it is. And with the Seahawks playing so many games already, I don't know if Coach Zamboni's a little nervous or not, but they're already at 34 games. Rangers just at 28, and they've already leapfrogged them for first. The Express just ended a 6-game heater thanks to Chris Sorella's boring but amazingly good New Hampshire Avalanche again. So, yeah, that's a really interesting division. Express still got to find goals, too. I mean, when you look at their stat sheet, it's staggering how they've been able to get this many wins, but their offense just – and they're still a +6 thanks to Jack Boschert, only giving up 65 goals as a team. But they're a team that needs to find goals. And, yeah, who the heck is going to come out of the East, guys? I have no clue. I said Seahawks, but I'm not really sure.
It's funny you say that, Jeff, because while the Express are struggling a bit offensively, they still have more goals than the 87s in 2 fewer games. So you look at the Boston Junior Rangers, they've only scored only 81 goals. I put in air quotes, but
Yeah.
we're seeing a lot of teams that are doing really well, even though they're not exactly putting the puck in the net. You could also say the Connecticut Chiefs. I mean, they're below 500, but they still have a pretty respectable 10, 12, and 5 record. They're, ahead of 3 other teams in their division. They've only scored 59 goals, but when you have good goaltending, which we've seen a lot of this year, good goaltending and good defense, it sort of
Wins
offsets the
championships.
lack of scoring, if you will.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, Span stepped up when Carroll left for the 87s, and Felak might be the addition of the year in the EHL. He came in with, like Neil just said, that was a team that was 0-4 to start out of the gates, and everyone was sounding the alarms except for Coach DiCaprio. And then Felak comes in and settles things down in the blue paint with a couple of young goaltenders. Mitchell Taylor moving up from Premier, Seth Bushy. So he found him from the NA, and he's been unbelievable up there for goaltender of the year. 87s have given up the fewest goals at 54, but the Rangers right behind him with 55. So, yeah, I mean, those two teams have showed you defense, goaltending, wins championships, and those two teams have had a lot of good goalies and defensemen walk through their doors for sure.
And then wrapping things up alphabetically, that takes us to the Central. And yesterday was my first, I don't want to say my first chance at redemption, but it was the first Chiefs Railers matchup since I was the lone wolf, if you will, back with our picks. And a 2-1 overtime win for the Railers in Newington has me feeling like this could be a tight race down the stretch, but we still have kind of similar to what we have in the South. You have a 3-team bunch there at currently the bottom of the division who I think at points this season, each one of Rhode Island, the Apple Corps, and the Rough Riders has shown like they are the third best team in that division. Yeah. They've each had that moment, if you will. And coming up, they each have their own unique, tough showcase schedule. But then what I found interesting is we have this showcase Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the Apple Corps and Rough Riders play the next day. Yeah, they play right afterwards. And I was like,
scheduled that?
How did I miss that? Like I could go and tell them like, hey guys, there's a showcase. Do you really want to play that? They could still say yes, but like this is a very, very important weekend for those teams in the Central Division.
Get your nutmeg ready. I'm gonna need it. No, it is. And that's like you said, Neil, look at those points. 22, 21, 20, 3, 4, 5. Rhode Island, Apple Corps, Rough Riders. Rhode Island really has come on of late. We talked about how well they've been playing. At Newington, I saw and did a couple of their games, had a couple of really good chats with James Mello and Janine Weber. And they're all buying into the system, and they look a little faster now. And they said, when you get a young team like they have, you get them experience. Now guys are starting to really settle into their roles. They've always believed in each other, right? We've talked about their bench being one of the most animated and loud benches in a good way too. Not, in hockey, we can say there's a loud bench, and there's a difference between a good loud and a bad loud type of bench, but they're a good loud. So I mean, yeah, watch out for them.
The showcase, by the way.
Yeah, just like the Wolves haven't played in about a month. So rest versus rust. I don't know, with a younger team like that, is rest good? I mean, now you're talking about mindsets, right? You kind of get off for a little too long, and then you get back, and here comes the scheduling gauntlet of the last league showcase for HC Rhode Island, and we'll see what they have. I mean, they got to play Saturday and Monday, so they get Sunday off. So they'll play Philly Hockey Club Saturday, and then in comes the high-scoring Seacoast Spartans. But maybe you're catching them at the right time with them struggling a little bit.
You also talk about HC Rhode Island, how they've been getting it together. I also do want to give a little shout-out to Will O'Brien. He did score against his former team in the 87s. That was back in the Newington showcase. And then the next day, O'Brien scored again. That was against the Little Flyers with under a minute left in regulation. So it was good to see him produce at the showcase with his new team. He was with the 87s last season. Chris Rousseau and I would always talk with him and Jeffrey Boker, two guys that were, super friendly with us when he played for the EHLP team. So I can't wait to see what he can do in Exeter. And you brought up a great point, Jeff. They're going to go up against some pretty good teams, and we'll see what HC Rhode Island is made of.
I remember Coach Radzewski and Coach Julio actually saw one of Will O'Brien's goals when they were in the golf simulator area of Newington Arena watching. They were like, "Is that O'Brien?" They're like, damn it! But they were happy for him. They're happy for him, but at the same time, you're like, what got away? That was ours. We could use some offense. Well,
yeah, right.
Well, league-wide, Rhode Island has been off since that Newington showcase, but they also were a part of that group of teams that played those CJEP programs that came down from Canada. So curious to see them because they've played no league games outside of that. The Rangers have played a couple league games outside of CJEP. Same with the Chiefs, the Avs, Warriors. We mentioned them. They've been off since. I hear Jeff's voice in the background from a Kelly basketball game.
Sorry about that. Something just opened on my phone. Whoops, we'll cut that right out.
So I'm very curious to see how those teams that played in the CJEP look, when they get into our showcase, right? Totally different style of play. I was just
going to ask Neil, you had the chance to go there. What did you take from that? Because that's a different, Canadian juniors is a lot different.
I could take heat from this, but there are some French Canadian players that play differently than American players. There's a lot of stick work, right? I grew up a Red Wings fan, right, Jeff? Right, mm-hmm. I'm a Red Wings and a Bruins fan, but for a long time, everyone's like, that makes no sense because they're in the same division, right? For a long time, they're in the West and the Eastern Conference, right? I'm from New England. My dad's from Michigan. I grew up a fan of both teams, but both teams were just drastically different. The Bruins were a punch you in the mouth type team. The Red Wings were like, "Are you from Europe? Can you score goals? Great, come over here." Right? So
Russian, cool. You're
Russian. You know what I mean? It just felt like two totally different styles of play against each other, right?
Actually, can I build off that?
Go ahead.
So the 87's got this new Russian player, Alex Legkov, and he scored his debut with the team. And we have another Russian player, Alex Gamzatov, who's been with the team since day one.
Go on.
And when Legkov scored, Gamzatov actually helped out as an interpreter. He did. Legkov was willing to do an interview with Chris Russo. We had Gamzatov going, but then the next day or before the game against ProTech, I was talking with Gamzatov about the stereotype that Russian players have, where they play more of a skill-based game. I also brought up a Players Tribune article by Evgeny Kuznetsov, which I definitely recommend reading to those listening. And he was like, and this is Gamzatov, he said, yeah, in Russia, if it's a 1-on-3, you're almost, kind of expected to try to go through all three guys, attack them, and make a play. Because if you dump the puck, the coach will call you out for being a coward. Just paraphrasing there, he used a different term. And then he said what? And then Gamzatov told me when he first played in Canada, it was a 1-on-3. So he's like, okay, my Russian coaches would tell me to attack them, so he tried to go 1-on-3. He goes back to the bench, and the coach again said things that I probably can't say here on the podcast.
Family show.
Basically, what are you, stupid or something? So for Gamzatov, he was like, yeah, that's.
What do you think you are, Super Mario? You can't cut through three guys. Cut the crap.
Oh my god, Gamzatov is so funny, and just the way he was telling the story, he was like, yeah. So long story short, I learned real quick that they play different here.
It's so much different, right? And you look at our league. And, half the guys wear half shields, half the guys don't. You look at the CJEP, it's a prep school league in Canada, right? Everyone's got a full cage on. You play differently with a full cage. You just do, right? It's the same thing when we face the college teams in October. So
your sightline's just way different with all the
sightlines are different. Physically, you play the game differently when you have a cage there protecting you, right? It's just a natural thing. I play a men's league with a half shield. I mean, I'm not very good, but I don't want to do anything with a half shield, right? So
right.
I don't want.
I hope you get a family discount if you lose any teeth, Neil.
I don't.
No, Trevor's not here. Neil, is your dad a dentist?
Well, let's put it this way. That would probably require me not to wear a mouth guard, which probably the discount would then be removed if my father would ever find out that I didn't wear a mouth guard, right? But
DMD Raven will ask you questions. This looks like some good damage.
Moving on to the EHLP now, right? Because I have to start with Adirondack, who I think I'm going to label now as the coolest team in both leagues combined, because 41% of their games so far this season have gone past regulation. Like, you literally are
Cardiac
going to
kids.
You go to their game, you're like, there's a good chance we're going to see more than 60 minutes of hockey. And this past weekend, we talked about on the podcast, when you have these 2-game series with teams that are so evenly matched, it's hard to assume a sweep, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a damn good and a big 2-game sweep for Adirondack over the New Hampshire Avalanche to kick off 2023. Yes, the Avalanche still got 2 points because both games went to overtime. But that division, I know where the Chiefs stand. This is nothing against them. That division, the 1 through 4, may be the most entertaining battle that we get to watch down the stretch, because they are separated currently 1 to 4 by literally 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
But actually,
It's
you took
insane.
that out of my mouth too, Neil, as far as I think Adirondack really wishes that they were able to end that in regulation, because then you got, instead of being 2 points up on the Avs, now you're 4 points up on them. So that is a big swing, and things are still really tight there. Lumberjacks still a point ahead of the Adirondack Thunder for first. Then you got the Wolves and Avs at 3 and 4, and then the Chiefs right behind them. But
how about this? And the leading scorer, or the high scoring team in the EHLP, the New Hampshire Avalanche, at 129 goals, 4th in their division.
Wow. Yep. Yeah, because they've given up 97 goals. We've talked about how defense and goaltending wins championships. Well, the Lumberjacks have given up the fewest goals in the North with 61 and have the best differential. But I mean, with Adirondack too, Jack Murkowski show, right? And Coach Murkowski's son, kid's second in the EHLP in points now. Yep. For any of those taking notes. I mean, the kid's really good. He deserves all the ice time he gets, without a doubt.
So, I guess I probably should have started with the EHLP All-Star game, right? Like, we should. I went right to Adirondack, but we should start by saying we do have the EHLP All-Star game this Saturday night, which includes Jack Murkowski, also includes Anthony DiPaolo calling the game with Tyler and Jake. Last year, the All-Star game started like 3-0, 4-0. Anthony, you were calling it. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it like at one point I was like, man, we did not draft the teams right, because it was like really lopsided. But then Team White started the fight back, right?
Yep.
And when talking with Brett Heigl, who's one of the coaches on Team White, he said that he wanted to be involved again this year. Just please put me on the winning bench. It's hard to predict that, man. Like last year we had no idea what to expect, and I think the MVP still came from the losing team in Team White was Max Morris, because he had a hat trick. Yeah, a hat trick, right? But like, if we can get an entertaining 7-5 game just like last year, count me in.
Well, let's do it. We just did the draft the other day. Teams look pretty even on paper, but as we know, nothing on paper always, or nothing on paper translates to the actual game, but it doesn't always translate. So we'll see. But I think we did a good job of balancing out the two teams. I wasn't there for last year. Oh, and actually this year I'm switching over. I'm going to be calling Anthony's 87s for him against the Lumberjacks EHL while that game's going on. So
it's perfect though, Jeff, because for those fans that are wondering, the EHLP All-Star game is not a showcase style format. It's 3 20-minute periods. So I'm not going to assume anything.
Then my game ends first. And
your game should end first, because it's 50 minutes of game time versus 60 with one fewer ice cut. You can't assume anything at showcases, right?
Don't you dare, because you know
40-round shootout.
Yeah, right? So you know what's going to happen now. 87's Lumberjacks are going to be going into the wee hours of the night.
Pause. Anthony just says 40-round shootout. We have to ask a very big question to Bill Zanaboni this weekend. Because I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the Seahawks went to a shootout with the Wizards on Monday. Do you see how many rounds? Did you see how many rounds it went?
I did not.
It went 9 rounds. So not quite 40, Anthony. But did you see who finally went out in round 9?
McManus? What, did he save one of his best?
No, McManus went. He saved Cade Herrera.
Oh,
so it's
Mr.
like
Seahawk.
So like Colin Casey, to his credit on the call, goes, and now we see Cade Herrera. Like, so obviously he scores, right? Ends the game. It kind of worked out. So we can remove the pause. We can ask Bill that question this weekend. Get back to the EHLP. Obviously excited for
Bill Sandbag and Zanabonia.
Did you even ask a question? Like, what was the question?
What the question is?
Why did you wait so long to whip
round 9? Like,
well, I mean, couldn't Cade Herrera have been shooters like 4 through 9 theoretically?
Yes,
so looking at Owen Drummy led it off. He scored. Then you got Ben Baxter, Scott McManus. Those are good picks. Both did not score. Carter Rugg, John Sterling, and Ethan Hollingsworth scored. Those are good picks. Alex Moeller, Hans Versilius, good pick. Moeller, I'm not as familiar with, and then Herrera. So they scored 4 times. The Wizards scored 3 times in the shootout too. Cody
Electric
White,
shootout.
Jack Riley, Connor Roach. Holy smokes! Missed one there.
So what's like crazy about that shootout is like sometimes those longer shootouts, once you get past the first 3 rounds, you're stuck trying to find a goal, right? Because no one's scoring, right? In that one, twice in sudden death, a team scored and then the other team matched it to keep the game going, right? So then
almost never see that.
So almost at that point, Anthony, it was like, well, if we're scoring, do you put the guy right back out there, or do you keep going one at a time? Like it's tough, but they eventually got to Herrera, and he won the game for them. So, interesting. That's the question.
Well, I feel like it's one of those rules that like I'm not even sure if coaches know about it. I mean, we talked about it here on the podcast once. How
all about repeating shooters.
How Domish was the one who tried it with the Philadelphia Junior Flyers. And I think the other coach, or I think it was the referee who said that,
do you remember
no, you couldn't do it. So,
yes. Do you remember that story, Anthony?
Yeah, so he went and got you.
Yeah.
It's Jerry's world.
I want to use the same guy. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. I'll be right there. You're right. He went and got me, Anthony. I was like, yep, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep, you can do that.
Yep. You know what? We'll say this, Anthony. Maybe in the EHLP All-Star game, if we get to a shootout, let's give everyone a chance.
Right.
We'll see. We probably won't get to a shootout, but obviously excited for the EHLP All-Star game. We just kind of started talking about the New England division there. Obviously, the tight four teams matched up. Something funny that came across through a text this weekend when going to the Boston division. The teams coaching Team Gray are John Fine-Lee, Zach Leibowitz, and Blaze Kilroy.
All the rookie head coaches.
Blaze thanked me. The Huntsman head coach thanked me for putting him with power ranking number 1 and number 2 from the Boston division. He goes, I get to pick their brain a little bit. I was like, go right ahead, I guess. While
those
you're
Huntsmen,
changing,
they do it right.
While you're changing forward lines and whatnot, right? So,
right.
I think similar to what we were discussing with the South and the EHL, the more and more time passes with that Boston division, it feels like a 2-horse race between the Railers and the Rangers. I know the Rangers returned and split their opening game or opening weekend games. They beat the Warriors, then lost the Wolves. I would say keep an eye on those Wolves. Back to the New England for a second.
Yeah.
I think they've kind of quietly been a sleeper in there. And then
what a turnaround too for them, right?
Right.
I mean, they were not good last year. Talking to Connor and Lou after their games last year, they were just banging their heads against the wall and weren't sure, what to do, how to fix it, and what a turnaround they've had. And we had one of those. Their leading points getter, right, Neil? Got us a lot of points. I know we're going to get to fantasy in a little bit, but Dominic Domakiev's 29 points. It looks good.
Yeah. And then speaking of two horse races again, that we've covered the 87s Huntsman on numerous occasions. For me, when it comes to the EHLP, I know we had a few games this past weekend, but it feels like the real return from the holiday break is this showcase with just how many games we have coming up. And I know we'll get into it in the what to watch for, but there are so many cross-division EHLP games this weekend that I'm excited to see because, yes, obviously a lot of the EHL showcase games are cross-division as well, but every now and then you get like a Northeast matchup, which has happened before. A lot of the EHLP games that we're seeing this weekend have not happened yet this season. And I know we're going to get into that with the what to watch for, but maybe you guys can tell me if you feel the same way. The return from the holiday break for the EHLP for me really feels like it's coming right now this weekend.
Yeah. And a reminder too, we're at the Ice Den and Rinks at Exeter for EHL premiere. So
True.
2 different venues, both in New Hampshire. Pick your choice. Go to either one. Go to both. Spread the love.
I learned that the hard way last season because I went to drop off last season. I went to drop off the microphone at Exeter, and I had to go with the EHLP team to Hookset because I had some games to call there. And I guess Connell McNeil, the head coach for the 87's P team, said, "Okay, we're all good. Let's go." And I had to go back to pick me up. I know Sean Walshy, the Southern New Hampshire University coach. He was in the office with me, and I was upset because the bus left without me. And Walshy's like, "How could they leave without you? You're the most important guy there." And I looked at Sean and I said, "Sean, now is not the time."
Right? Oh, geez. Walshy loves to poke you when you feel like you're at your worst.
Well, I think for those that are keeping count at home too, because it's been covered a few times now, Anthony has missed the bus twice. Okay, that's it.
He's not going for the hat trick. He's not going for the hat trick.
Hat trick thing, right? That would be pretty incredible this weekend. But he's not going to miss the bus at all this weekend. All right, guys, he's not going to miss the bus at all this weekend.
We're all going to be on the same channel. Teamwork makes the dream work.
But didn't you ride with the Lumberjacks?
That was on my way to to Exeter for the All-Star game.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes, and that was one of your best bus rides you said of your career. So,
yes.
But we kind of teased it before. We need to jump to fantasy because last week I covered the average total that the Team HNIB needed to kind of accumulate each week in order to catch up. Jeff, not a good week for us. So let's jump to fantasy.
Yeah.
It's time for the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge.
The E-Crew Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
What a week for Team HNIB.
Hey, you know what they say, when you get cute, sometimes you're not cute. We got cute.
Okay. Who says that, Jeff?
I don't know. I just made that one up.
Jeff says that. That's
okay.
Yeah, we got cute. We screwed around a little bit. Not this week. 3
goals, 3 assists, 3 power play points for Dallas D'Amato for 17 fantasy points.
Ouch. Thanks, Dallas.
3 assists for LJG, that's Louis Joseph Guernon, for 6 points. Connor Roach with 3 goals, 2 assists, 1 power play point for 14 points.
Player of the week.
Carter Rugg with a power play goal for 4 more points. Jack Foote for the 87th with 4 assists, 2 of which came on the power play for 10 more points. And then just a little 27 save shutout victory for William Billiquay for 11.4 points. Team HNIB over the holiday break said our New Year's resolution is to make a comeback, and they put up 62.4 points this past week, Jeff. Compared to our Cooper Smith.
We did. This used to be a decent week back in the day.
23. I would label it as a slightly below average week, right? It's near average. It's not terrible,
right?
But when you compare it to 62.4, like
not great.
Not great.
Not going to get it done. Couple of goose eggs in there that really hurt us.
Yeah. Ouch. So like I said, Cooper Smith, the goal, 2 assists, power play point for 8 points. 2 assists, one on the power play for Brett Beal for 5 points.
Solid.
A goal and an assist for Benjamin Watson, 5 points. Andrew Wolosian, 2 assists, 1 on the power play for 5 points. We got got nothing from Grant Curtis, and then Alex Rolfe didn't
That's
play.
what killed
so
us.
didn't get anything. I mean, I think Beal, Watson, and Volosian texted each other, Jeff, and said, let's each get 5 points because Neil loves symmetry. But maybe if it was let's each get 15 points, we'd feel a little bit differently.
Yeah. I mean,
so
yeah, it happens.
So 62.4. You got the calculator out, Jeff?
Yeah, hold on. There we go. Yep. 62.4
minus 23, right?
They gained 39.4 points.
And I was saying last week, I was saying last week they needed to gain around 19, 20 points per week. And they were like, you know what? Hold my beer. We're gonna double our production in the first one, right?
We'll take it.
So, all right, Anthony.
Nice job, boys.
Since you're the lone Team HNIB member here this week, you're outnumbered. Tell us how you're gonna match 62.4.
We may be outnumbered, but you are outmatched, my friend.
Oh, ouch.
To start things off, we're going to go with forward from the Boston Junior Rangers and Will Halecki. He has 4 points in his last 3 games, including a goal or goals in 3 straight, actually, against the Chiefs, Apple Corps, and Seahawks. So he'll be a great addition for Team HNIB. Also at forward, we're going to go with Ethan Lim of the Connecticut Chiefs. Lim scored a goal in the first game of 2023 in that contest against the Railers. So he'll be another good addition up front. Then we're going to go to the Express Hockey Club. Ben Sauerbaugh. He had a 2-point game against the Vermont Lumberjacks. He had a goal and an assist. So I know the Express, looking for goals. I think Sauerbaugh is definitely one of the forwards they can rely on. So we'll have him on Team HNIB. Then on defense, we're going with Aiden Swain from the Railers. He's been really good as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he has 5 points in his last 2 games, 7 in his last 4. He has, he's coming off a 2-goal game against the Valley Junior Warriors. They haven't really played yet at the turn of the new year, but we hope that for Swain, he can sort of keep that going. That's our EHLP pick. Then we're going to the Ducks. I got to see him the other day, Jacob Gates, really good defenseman from the blue line. Didn't score any points against the 87s, but in their next game against the Rough Riders, he picked up a pair of assists. So I think we picked him a couple of times on Team HNIB. We're going to get him again and hope for the best, hope that we can further sort of chop at that deficit. Then we're going with Max Benoon for New York Apple Corps. That's our goaltending pick. I know Apple Corps had an up and down year, but Max Benoon, sometimes he sort of looks reminiscent of Jackson Bernard, just coming in, making saves day in and day out. In his last 4 games, he's picked up a save percentage of 900 or better. He's coming off a 47 save performance against the Rough Riders. That was on January 6th. I know Apple Corps has some big games coming up in this showcase. And if he can steal a win or two, I think that would definitely help us, further chop that deficit that you guys, or that lead that you guys have over us.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if we did that math yet, Neil. Let's see.
We'll do that at the end. We always do that at the end.
That's right. Get ahead of myself.
If Jake was here when you picked Aiden Swain, it's the Aiden Swain train. So
the Aiden Swain train.
Yep. So
it'll be all sorts of those 4th of July poppers blowing off and streamers and all sorts of stuff.
All right. So Jeff, you know what we got to do when we announce our picks? We have to do it your style to mix up the mojo, right?
Zigzag.
So I'm going to start. I'll give us a D first. We're going to go back and forth.
Early morning. You want to throw up already? All right. There you go.
Returning after playing for the Express last season, Jess got back. First game, first goal, William Fallman. We love EP's stat projections.
Oh, what's he on pace for? 98 goals?
19 goals in 19 games, right? Ooh. For a defenseman. So he's a pure...
Coach Coda will love that. He's been looking for some offense.
Goal-scoring defenseman. So William Fallman on the point. That's our first guy, Jeff. You're
Road
next.
to 19 starts now. Let's go, William. All right, I'm next. We staying on the blue? You want to go to goaltender now?
This is the beauty of the way you announce your picks, wherever you want to go.
We're gonna get the good times rolling again by zigging and zagging. So we're gonna go goalie. Here we go. Nathan Kirschenbaum. Kid's been basically spotless since he joined the Protect Junior Ducks. 3 wins in 3 games. Listen to these numbers, guys. Goals against 1.03, save percentage 966. Kid stopped 85 of 88 pucks that he's seen come his way. Has a shutout in there against the Apple Corps. Most goals he's given up was 2 against the Wizards, and then just beat New Jersey in a nice 4-1 effort the other day, 25 saves on 26 shots. He is our goalie. Neil, back to you on where you want to go from here.
I'm going to go to forward because
got 3 of them.
He's only been picked once this season, and it's time for us to just simply go to the well with William Prey, right?
Yes.
And honestly,
3 games this weekend.
To think that we allowed week 1 Team HNIB to pick Aiden Hotchkiss, William Prey, and Eddie Gregorievs at the same time is ridiculous, right? But now we have not picked him yet this season. Obviously he's had a tremendous age out campaign with 47 points to his credit so far. I guess you can call this kind of a dry spell in his season.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. No, like 3 and 4 point efforts recently for
William
Prey.
You know what? Home showcase, home cooking. I'm feeling good about our first forward announced.
Love it. Let's do another forward. How about Carter Newland? Talking about a great addition. 19 points in 20 games, came over from the Junior Bruins, NCDC, and the USPHL, and he's got 7 goals, 12 assists for Coach Perreault. Has goals in both games since Philly has came back from the break, scored against New Jersey and scored against the Little Flyers. So he's on the streaks page, so let's push it to 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. I forget how many games Philly has this weekend. I know they have at least 2, possibly 3. So maybe we can push that the goal streak a little farther, Carter, please. We need some help. What do you think? Carter Newland, come on down.
Keep an eye on our social media channels for this past week's top plays, which will be released prior to the showcase. You may see Carter Newland in there, right? For the final forward spot, we're going to Hudson Perry, who plays for the Express EHLP team, which I know they've had their struggles, but when they score, Hudson Perry is the one that's scoring. You look at the
from Nantucket.
You look at the goals for, and he's got 12 so far, including a hat trick, including a 4-point game, right? So
I was gonna say he's got 5 goals in the last 4 games.
Yep. Ooh. They have a pair of matchups at the showcase. They play the 87s and the Wolves. You know what? If it turns into a running gun shootout, I'm okay with it because I feel strong about Hudson Perry on our side.
6 goals for Hudson Perry in the last 5 games. My bad. Don't want to miss that. That's half of the season's production in the last. We're catching him at the right time, I think, Neil.
Yeah,
12 goals in the year, 6 in the last 5 games. And then last, but certainly not least, one of our players of the week last week, Neil. Devin Jolly. 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points. Been a strong offensive presence on the blue line, 11 points. That's very solid. And he's coming in hot too. First game back from the break, goal, 2 assists for one Devin Jolly. So, Dev, what do you say? Let's bring that up to Rinks at Exeter, please. Thank you, and have a good night.
So since I want to say November showcase, basically, for Devin Jolly, there are 12 scoreless games. But when he does tally a point, Jeff, it's a multi-point game, right?
Yes.
Because he's got 2 multi-point games in there. So
give us 1 of those. Give us 2 of those. Even just 1. We won't be greedy.
Obviously, we still have our lead. Here you go, Jeff. We could go to the calculator one final time.
Yes, sir.
596.2.
96.2 minus
479.6.
Coming up on the 500. Oh, still 116.6. All right.
But
it was 170.
Yeah,
I think, last week.
That's low
shrinking.
as it's been in quite some time. So
we get below triple digits, I'm gonna be sweating.
Be like probably the worst blown lead in the history of all mankind. So
it's basically a 3-goal lead, worst lead in hockey, or is it a 2-goal lead?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it could be like a 5-goal lead. Honestly,
the 90-point lead in fantasy is the worst lead to have.
Yep, sure is.
But with that, we've kind of teased this earlier as well. So many matchups to watch this weekend, so we're each going to give you one right now in our What to Watch For segment.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to Watch For is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2022-2023 season.
Can I cheat and give you a team's showcase schedule to watch for?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have any
Is it cheating?
qualms with that.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Railers EHLP. I know that they're in first place, number one ranked team in the EHLP. Anthony slams the desk because he wanted to say that. They have 3 games in a very short turnaround. Who's the scheduling guy, Anthony? Right?
Yeah.
They take on the 87s and Adirondack on Sunday, and then come right back for a matchup with the Huntsmen on Monday. So, no, first and foremost, the Huntsmen and the 87s are each going to be watching to see what they do against the Railers, right? But just like kind of a gauntlet. So, I apologize, but I don't at the same time. So
right. I cannot wait to call that Railers Adirondack game, because we were talking about how Adirondack just always loves to play in overtime. So I'm feeling pretty good that game's going to last a little longer than 50 minutes.
Cough drops before the game, cough drops after that game, Anthony.
Oh, I have a big jumbo bag of honey / lemon cough drops. I'm bringing that with me when I go up to Exeter. So
I've taught you well, my son. I've taught you well.
Current overtime line is -300 for those that want to hit it. So
hey,
was that the one game you had picked, Anthony? I'm sorry, I took it right away from you.
It's fine. I mean, I could also just bring up the EHLP All-Star game.
Okay,
it was really fun covering that last season. I'm looking forward to calling that again with Tyler and Jake. It's really fun. We'll see if any players are going to be shooting the stuff, just like last season.
Jeff must have missed that from last year.
Yeah, I did miss that. I was at Northeastern, I think.
We had a little oopsie on the air, we'll say.
Well, no, because it was almost an oopsie, but
yes,
you caught it in time.
Exactly.
Nice.
Unlike someone, Kyle.
Inside jokes. All right, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, I know Anthony's the 87s guy, but 87s Avs. How about that? First time they've seen each other this year. 2 of our hottest teams right now. 87 7-3 in their last 10. Avs 8-1-0-1. So that should be a great matchup. I think that'll be on Sunday at noontime. I'm not sure if that is on my docket or not.
Yep.
We've had a few different changes. I think it is, but I'm going to double check.
Yep. No, I'm on the call for that too.
Oh, Anthony is perfect. There you go.
Yep.
Boom.
Together.
Beautiful.
There you go. If you want to talk inside jokes, I'm curious to see how the 2 coaches interact with each other after the game is over, based off who wins. Adam and Chris know exactly what I'm talking about there, right? So a bunch of great matchups this weekend. I want to say we have 36 games total when you include EHL, EHLP, and the EHLP All-Star game. As Jeff mentioned, there are a handful, 10 to be exact, of games that
that's 2 handfuls right there, guys.
Over at the Ice Den. I guess I'm challenging one of our teams in New England to build a 3-sheet facility. Okay, because then we can all just stay in the same building.
Hey, we've talked to one Mario Martiniello. He's got plenty of room over there in Hooksett.
It's only a one.
I know Amazon's right next door, but
it's only a 1-sheet facility right now.
So plenty of room to blow the wall and get 2 more sheets.
Well, he could do. He could put a rink to the left and then a rink above, Jeff. That would be really cool.
Or if you could come forward, they have a big parking lot on the sides.
We'll look at Anthony's face. He's picturing a rink above a rink right now, and he just cannot picture it.
Can you imagine calling a game on the ground floor rink, and then it's like, oh no, I got to run upstairs. I got to call the next game on the second floor, and you're just running up the stairs. I always tell people never run to the broadcast booth.
Oh,
because you don't want to go on air out of breath.
Like,
and that would be pretty hard if you had to, run your way up to the second floor rink.
I'm not loving the idea of this. You get a ice leakage. The ceiling's tripping. What's coming down on the ice? I think there's a reason we don't topple rinks on top of each other. But
you know what, Jeff? During the showcase, I'm gonna Google search to see if it even exists in the world.
There we go.
So
well, there are some buildings that have rinks on a higher floor. There's the Palisades Mall that's just above the New York New Jersey border. Their rink is, I think, on the 4th floor.
Oh.
I think the American Dream Mall, I think their rink might be on a floor that's higher than ground level. So
shoot, all right.
It's not unprecedented to have a rink on a higher floor than the ground floor. So I just don't know about stacking one rink on top of another.
Yeah. Anthony says, "Don't Google search it. I already have the answer."
Sort of,
but a bunch of games at the 2 rinks. Obviously, we'll have the full coverage that we always do on social media and every game live on Hockey TV. And you know what, guys? Let's just check off the last showcase of the season. Let's do it.
Really? Are we doing that? Yeah, I guess we are. Rinks and Exeter it is. See you all there, E-Show fans.
See you guys there.
Thanks for listening to the E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.